Welcome. Now, I just filmed a 45-minute episode where most of it was just me rambling. Who knows? Could be a draft. I could have already posted it. This is the deciding episode. So, I said some things. I'm probably going to take snippets of that and apply it here. Or not. I don't really know. But I don't know. The whole 45 minutes with me before was talking about the fact that I don't know what this episode wants to be. Anyway, so I think I'll just start it off with the fact that I just don't want to start it off on a trauma base, but I need you to get to know me first. I need you to understand why I'm here, why I'm doing this. I need you to see what background I come from that gives me the qualifications to even do this. And it's funny because I don't need qualifications to do this. I'm just a human being with a phone that has a camera and a microphone and a tripod that is surprisingly working. I'm very thankful for that. I need to remind myself that I'm just like any other human being. Just having a go. Just really trying. Now, the setup right now, this is my room. We're in my room, okay? Again, theoretical future talking. Anyway, I didn't want this first episode to be a gateway into my trauma. And you know what? It's not going to be. Because you need to get to know me. And unfortunately, the cards that I've been dealt is that practically since I came out of the womb, the motherfucker's been traumatized. So, I'm going to give you the intro of who I am. And you guys can determine whatever the fuck you want with the information that I'm about to share. Yeah. So, started off when Mom met Dad. No, okay, honestly, I think I'm just going to talk to you like how I would talk to any other person about it. But from the straight get-go. Alright, so I was born. And it's interesting because I don't know how detailed I'm meant to get. Because with this episode, disclaimer, trigger warning, I talk about sexual assault. I talk about young sexual assault. I talk about rape, abuse, the intricate workings of all of that, at least from my perspective. Now, I also want to express that my trauma has never hit the courts. It's never hit any legal shit. And I completely understand that publicizing this shit creates a chance for that shit. And this is why I've been a little bit stuck on it. But, inevitably, I accept the consequences to my actions. Universe. So yeah, I'm just being authentically me. And I love how anxious I'm getting about it. Because that's what being transparent is. It makes me anxious. I've told people one-on-one because I'm a big believer of when you put things on the internet, they stay there forever. But also, it's in my mind forever. So I'm good. We good. And there's that whole conversation about AI and shit, but like, fuck me. We can get into that way later. But I started off. So my mother, love her soul dearly. She passed away when I was 8 years old in 2009, same year as Michael Jackson. So if it's not 2009, that's going to sound really funny, but it's around then. Come on, I was 8 years old. I'm fucking horrible with dates. You think I would be better being like an astrology person. Anyway, so my mom, from what I gather, again, I want to also say a lot of things that I know are intuitive evidence, not hard factual evidence. And I also want to express that when we look into memory is a very interesting thing. Maybe we can do an episode about it. But the human mind and memory, I think that there could be an episode or a series on Netflix about the mind and the mind explained and the way that memory works. Anyway, the shit gets crazy, right? And as soon as you add childhood trauma into it, the brain develops differently. Shit goes baller. Like, shit goes balls deep, feet up. Okay? In that expression, the memories that I have and the experiences that I'm talking about, it's there. The body keeps score. If you've never read the book, I suggest you read it, because I'm telling myself that. I've only read like 7 pages. And from those 7 pages, I learned so fucking much. Surprising. I should just read more of it. Anyway, so keynotes to express where I'm coming from is that my dad and my mom, they got together. My mom was 27 when she had me, and dad was, no, they have 19 years difference. I think she had me about 27, and my dad was 46. Yeah, that makes sense. That's the right maths. Anyway, we can all understand that age gap is large, and we can all create our own speculations and our own perspectives of what that could mean. Depends whoever you are. Anyway, I'm still learning. There are a lot of things from my past when it comes to my parents' history that I do not know, that I probably will never know, and that there are a lot of questions, what ifs, and buts about a lot of things. See, I have come to accept through the passages of the time that I have existed in, is that sometimes in life you have questions that will never be answered. You just have to accept that. And the quicker you accept that, the easier life is. I'm telling you this right now, because there was a lot of periods of time in my life where I was like, what the fuck is happening? Why is this? Why is that? What if? What is it? Blah, blah, blah. And someone had the decency to tell me that the what ifs will kill you. So, appreciate what you don't know and appreciate what you know, because sometimes not knowing is a lot more fun. I'm gonna say that right now. She says that even though I have an existential crippling fucking thing about not knowing, and sometimes I'll really freak out about it, but that just comes with the time. I'm gonna just quickly get a pillow, because I don't know if I'm editing. I don't know how much of this I'm keeping raw and how much I'm editing out. So anyway, that is so much better. Oh, fuck me. I'm sitting on a makeshift seat. Anyway, so as far as I know, my mother was a heroin addict. Now, when I say heroin addict, I'm sure a lot of images pop into your mind. I'm sure a lot of scenarios, I'm sure a lot of things go through your brain. But I want to say right now that I feel like, in a strange sense, I was a lucky one, because my mother, heroin addict, yes. Drug addict, yeah. I would like to say that she had a drug habit, because when we think heroin addict, we may think a junkie, we may think someone who's like homeless, someone scabby, someone that is just really unhealthy looking. But that's the funny thing when it comes to drugs. The people will look like, drugs don't look like something. Yes, the extreme levels do, but a lot of the time, a lot of people are dealing with drug habits and dealing with pharmaceutical drug habits, recreational, illegal, whatever the fuck. They're dealing with drug habits, and they can look completely healthy and normal. I know a lot of people, or I know and seen and educated myself on people who do like smoke meth and they don't look like it at all. I know people who drink religiously, but they would never assume themselves as a alcoholic. So yeah, it's a very interesting realm that we sit in. But anyway, I just want to know that the mum that I had for the first 8 years of my life, amazing. She cared for me. Again, this is just coming from the 8 years of memory that I had as a child. She was there for me when I needed it. I went on adventures with her. I never firsthand saw herself give herself medicine, is what what I was told it was. It was medicine. And I do have distinct memories of her being in some forms of rehabilitation centers as I was a child. So there's that. Dad, completely chill, sober, total soberhead as far as I know. There's a lot I don't know about my dad, but in the sake of privacy, I'm going to try and keep my backstory on him as respectful as I can from my perspective. But yeah, anyway, because again, parents, people, we only know as much as we know with the information that we have at the time. We can only do as good as we can with the information at the time. And yes, sometimes that is the most frustrating thing to fucking hear, because you wonder. Some people make some really, really questionable decisions, and you're like, what the fuck? If you just sat with yourself and thought just a little bit fucking harder, then maybe we could avoid it stuff. But also, that's me being a hypocrite and me being completely contradictional. Because when people are angry, when people may have undiagnosed neurodivergency or undiagnosed in general mental health, things can come out. Stress does insane things on the human body and human psyche. So as much as I'm talking about my trauma and as much as I'm talking about things who have done or people who have done things wrong to me, I also am completely understandable of the fact that every human is different. Every human is experiencing a different life to me. I am very fortunate and lucky, and I'm very appreciative and grateful for the fact that I turned out the way that I did with the things that have happened to me. I can't say that some are as fortunate as I am, but I try and progress as a human being with the mindset that I will never understand someone else's life like I understand my own. I can only understand through empathetic, I can only understand through my own life and my own experiences and being empathetic towards those people. And through empathy and sharing and understanding is how I feel we can bring a little bit more peace to the world. Now, that opens up a lot of variables and a lot of conversations about the fact that, trying to hold people accountable for their actions and being responsible and boundaries, and it adds all of these extra variables in where I'm sure I will learn along this journey and learn along my life's journey. But for now, for the sake of now and for the sake of where I'm at and telling this story, this is just like the prelogue. Anyway, this is just this is the foundations of my understandings so far. So yeah, Dad and Mum got together. I was born. They got married the year that I was born. My mum had an interesting life, as far as I know. So I'm not her first child. I was her third child. Her first child is my older half-brother. And anyone engaging in my response right now may put a couple dots together quite quickly. But yes, so Mum is a sibling of 5. Again, trigger warning. If you didn't already know, we're going to be talking about some very serious topics, suicide, things like that. So prepare yourself. And again, it's completely okay if over these next couple weeks you completely skip out on these episodes because it's too much, and I completely understand that. And also in a strange realm, I want to at least say that if at any point you feel like messaging me about any of these things, please feel free. Sometimes time perception's a bit cooked in my brain, in my realm. So if it takes me a little bit to get to you, don't take it personally. Literally, I'm just a fucking space cadet. But yeah, anyway, I thought I'd just extend that, or, I can pass you resources of people to talk to if I cannot. Anyway, so yeah, Mum was a sibling of 5. her mum died when she was quite young, around 8 or 9, and any spiritual synchronicity people would be like, what? Because I'm like, what does this mean? And I don't know if her dad died early or was just dead to her. Anyway, she became an orphan. Her 5 siblings, so there was my mum, who was the youngest. Then in a certain order that I'm not completely aware of, I think there was Stephen, Corey, Jason, Nikki, Freya. Freya's my mum. Stephen killed himself when he was 18. I don't know what year that was. I don't know how old my mum was. I don't know. That's all I know. Corey, I was 4 years old. He killed himself. Jumped in front of a train. See, I was told that the doctors gave him the wrong meds. That's what that was the 4-year-old explanation that I got. Again, don't know. Also, not very far-fetched in my experience, or at least my hearings of the way that people with mental health go. Like in the doctors and mental health, like it's not uncommon, which is really sad, for people to receive the incorrect medication for the diagnosis that they might have. And then there's Jason, who is alive. Not in my life. A lot of my mum's family is not in my life. He is a questionable human being that I don't really know anything about, but anyway. And then there's Nikki, who I have only talked to once. It was at my mother's funeral on the phone. As far as I know, she lives somewhere in Europe. Yeah. I know that Mum and Nikki were very, very close. They wrote letters quite often to each other. Pen pals, because Mum had no fucking clue how to use Word document. Like, at all. She used a typewriter, and she handwrote. Like, she was an artist. She was an amazing woman. She was really, really lovely. She was nice. Mum was always calm in really intense situations. She was an amazing, polite human being, at least as far as I saw. And yeah. I don't know how in depth I want to get about it, but Mum was amazing. Like, an amazing human being. That's all I really have to say, besides, obviously the whatever drug habits do to a human being. Anyway, so then when she was 18, 19, I think, because my older half-brother's 7 years older than me, he was born. And then at some point between me and him, or him and me being born, there was a daughter named Taylor, but unfortunately she passed away in a cot death. So we can already see... Oh, yeah, so my mum was sent to all the other siblings were sent to an orphanage. My mum was sent to her auntie and uncle, who apparently weren't that very nice. Again, I really don't know much about my mum's side of the story, but I just know that much. And again, the funny thing is, I don't know how much of it is concrete evidence, right? Because the patchiness of life. Anyway, from my father's side, it was a very stable family. That's really all as far as I'll go into the depths of my dad's side for now. It's just a very stable family. Italian. That's, yeah, you can fill in the gaps there. So, anyway, I was born, and then my younger brother was born, who's 18 months younger than me. So the way, it's interesting. How do you even start a story like this? Or how do you get into it? Because again, I'm used to telling people one-on-one, so I can engage their responses. I can engage a little bit the type of person they are, to be able to adjust my language, because there's a certain level of being authentically yourself while simultaneously respecting the person you're talking to, right? But right now I'm talking to everyone and anyone, so the way that I would talk about it, and it's interesting because once I do write this memoir, it's a lot more poetically written. I like to define my writing as poetic, or at least I like to try and add a poetic aura to it. So, yeah, we've got, now I'm becoming, 1 to 3. You don't really remember the ages of 1 to 3. It's pretty intense. So then we get to 4 and shit starts hitting the fan in a way that I never knew it could. So in my cat is very, she's persistent when she's hungry, and I can't be fucked with my tripod getting absolutely railed because I do relatively want this all to be in like one solid sitting. So yeah, anyway, the beauties of the universe helping us break up trauma with some fucking humor. Anyway, so then 4 years old, there's a beauty and there's an innocence when it comes to being a child, right? You've got curiosity. You've got, again, I could talk to, I don't know much about the child brain, all right? I just know that it develops differently when it's experienced trauma. And it's beautiful because I have friends who can easily educate me on the inner workings of a kid's brain. But anyone who knows kids, you can imagine what's happening at 4 years old, right? They're only just starting to like do stuff. Or as far as I know, I don't fucking know, okay? When it comes to kids and children, I have no fucking clue. I just like, that's a new thing I've only really just started. Like, if anyone knew me prior to like 2-3 years ago, maternally, fuck no. It's not that I hated children, it's that I was absolutely fucking terrified of them because I didn't understand them. The irony of that is because I didn't understand my own fucking childhood. And therefore, the fear of my own childhood looking at a child is like, whoa, what the fuck did I miss out on? Thankfully, through healing, I have now gotten a little bit better with children. Still terrified, but not as terrified to, like, I don't get into a paralytic state. I actually still have the ability to talk. PTSD much? Anyway. Yeah, so 4 years old, my older half brother, him being 7 years older than me, so do the math. I can't be bothered doing the math right now. He decides to, what I assume, take advantage of my curiosity. So there were times where I caught him watching porn, looking at zoo magazines, and I became very curious, as many people, or maybe many children would. I don't know. I'm coming from my own experience. Became very curious of the naked body, because to a kid's brain, it doesn't look like, porn doesn't look like what it looks like, right? Like, I don't know. So from a very young age, I have been in the realm of sex. I've been in the realm of the sexual content realm, right? So I'm still so baffled at it. And I still continue to unlock new ideologies and new reasonings or new understandings about this sort of trauma. But yeah, anyway, so he would watch those things and I caught him doing it. And I was very curious. I was like, what the fuck is this about? What is this about? What is going on here? What is this? And again, because I've looked into the memories so often and I'm a lot older now, it's like we're thinking genuinely about 20 years ago. Like, I'm trying to remember 20 years ago, and 4-year-olds don't exactly have that best of memory. So I'm understanding that, you know, there's gaps in time. But from what I gather, from what I remember, and again, time perception as a child is very different, but from what I gather is that, yeah, he saw a chance and he took it. So we started doing, or he asked me for sexual acts or sexual favors in exchange for my curiosity. Now, I wish I had a fucking sound effect panel board right now because it's like, anyway, crazy fucking shit. Crazy fucking shit. It would be like, oh, I'll let you watch this video if you do this sexual favor for me, or you do this sexual act for me, or I'll give you a Zoo magazine to look at if you do this specific thing for me. And then somehow, and I'm probably going to figure out so many interesting things while I express and tell my story, because the more times I tell my story, the more times I think about it, the more times I like go over it, the more different connections happen in my brain because of the older I get and the more information that I know. So excuse me if I randomly daze off and ponder for a moment. But at some point, so this went on for about 3 years. As far as I can remember, this went on for about 3 years. It felt like that because it stopped a little bit before Mum passed away, or it relatively stopped around that time. And this is how I can determine a timeline, or an attempted timeline. So it's interesting when it comes to sexual assault, especially on an incest level. And though he was only my half brother, it's my mum's side, so that's a little bit more, you know, it feels like a bit more like than, because my mum carried him, so it's like it feels more, you get me? So anyway, sexual favors ended up turning into sex. And it was uncomfortable. And not funny. I will say the funny thing because to me it's funny because sometimes things that I can't make sense of are humorous or per se hysterical. Anyway, it blows my fucking mind. It blows my mind. Because a lot of the times we hear about sexual assault, a lot of the times we hear about rape, a lot of the times we hear about these sort of acts, or at least in my experience, the times that I had heard about it were violent. They were violent. They were, fucking abusive. It was physical. It was consensually not there in a way. And I'm getting confused. I need to take a moment to recollect myself. It's like, when you get overstimulated, when you're talking about your trauma, you want to be able to be completely focused and you want to make sure that you give the story completely authenticity to yourself. But then for some reason, everything around you is just getting overstimulating. That's what's happening to me right now, which is so funny because, again, you know what I mean? It's not funny, but it's funny to me because I've told this to so many people and I've told this story over and over again like it's the back of my hand, and yet still it trips me up to this day. Still 20 years from now, it still trips me up, it still chokes me up, it still fucks me up, especially because it's obvious. There are really obvious reasons why it fucks me up still for any other person, but it's always it's this childlike part of me that's just oh my fucking god, what the fuck. And so yeah, I'm just taking a moment to recollect myself. But yeah, it's very interesting because you have to, or at least my perspective, it's when you're talking about trauma and when you're talking about things that have happened to you, you have to also respectfully allow your body and allow the feelings to come up no matter what, anytime, any place, right? Like, it would be rude of me to deny myself of feeling the way that I'm feeling, like, as while telling this story. Because that's the whole point. It's to be transparent. It's to tell you and to communicate what's going on, even through this. Because as much as I am a strong person, I was still a child, okay? I was still very much 4 years old, 4 to 7, and then 8, and then it just fucking hit me, right? It just completely kept hitting me like a fucking train wreck. It was just like fucking douche, 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 douche. And it's so funny to me because for a very long time, I used my control issues and my lack of ability to feel my emotions as a shield. I used my, your brain, your logic side of your brain instead of the heart space. And only in the recent years of healing that you'll find, or in my recent years of healing, depending on what you need to heal, is that through my analytical logicness to try and solve my issues, emotions don't go away, okay? That shit sticks around and it asks to be felt. So, as a reflex. So, it asks to come up, it asks to be felt, which we need to appreciate, and we also need to allow and accept, because it's okay. Okay, guys? It's okay to be a human being. It's okay to feel emotions, even if your trauma has happened 20 years ago, even if it happened 3 years ago, if it happened however many times, because time, when it comes to trauma, time does not exist, okay? Time is a human construct. It is a perception, and to the body and to nature and to things, time doesn't, the way that we justify time, it's not a thing. So, yeah, anyway, I thought I'd just pause and fucking say that, because I feel like I should. You know? Let's just, this is a crystal singing bowl, and it is at note E, which is the solar plexus note, if anyone cares. I've only recently gone into sound healing, and my solar plexus is blocked, so she's a babe. She's a babe. Where was I? Yes, sex, incest, rape, being fucking violent, right? So to me, it was so confusing because mine wasn't violent. It was consensual. And it fucks me up to say that, because obviously when you're manipulating a child, it is not consensual, right? Like it wasn't consensual at all. But in the processes of going through and healing these parts of myself, it's very intense, because it was sexual exchange at its finest, in my opinion. It was, and this fucked me up when I turned 15, because then I went to an all-girls school, right? So you hear about slut, whore, skank, prostitute. You hear about all these words that get thrown around very, very lightly. So it randomly dawned on me that sex work, or at least from what those perceptions of, that's a whole other ball game that I will not be addressing right now. But in the way of it, I was exchanging sex or sexual parts or sexual favors for something in return. So for a while, I started really freaking out. And again, respect to all, workers in that realm. Like, again, you do you, boo-boo. Your life is your life. You do however you want to do with that life. No disrespect, no whatever. You can fucking live the way you want to live. But I'm just saying, from my perspective and from being a kid and just like shifting and all this fucking process, I was like, holy fucking shit. What does this make me? Where am I at? What's happening? And I started really freaking out about it for obvious reasons. So yeah, anyway, it was very strange for me to be able to figure it out, because it was consensual, because I had never learnt how to say no. And it's interesting because that leads me to another, like, an extra thing. But anyway, yeah, there's a reason that I have certain preferences because of certain traumatic things that happened. But I'm just so curious, because from 4 to 7, like, again, I I studied youth work for a little bit. I dropped out. I studied alcohol and other drugs as well. I dropped out. I tend to drop out of things. Anyway, so there was a module that right before I dropped out, I missed. Bummer on my part. That there was like the work down of what childhood trauma does to the brain and how it develops. But you can imagine how a kid's brain would have developed. So as some kids were learning the alphabet and learning what 1 + 1 is, I was learning how to fucking suck a dick. Okay, like, just to be straight fact, I was learning how to suck a dick. I was learning how to massage someone's back. I was learning how to give back scratches. I was learning how to fucking do really gross shit. Gross shit at the age it was. Okay, it's not. And this is, yeah. This is why I really don't like banana condoms. Not that anyone needs to know that, but now you know. It's just a random fact that comes out in my brain. Yeah. So I remember telling my mum while it was happening, this is where it's very interesting because nothing happened from telling my mum. Now, I can be really fucking mad about that. I could be enraged. I could be shitty. But I am the person I am. And as I was saying, it's about understanding other people's perspectives, or at least understanding that I will never truly understand where someone's life is in the moment that it's in. So there was a lot of shit going on in my mum's life. There's a lot of trauma that she had. So I can only imagine what it felt like to hear her only daughter say about her first and only son. Oh, sorry, not only son. First son, that I should say. So yeah, anyway, fucking... It didn't really do anything. And then it wasn't until I talked to my mum's male best friend at the time, and he informed me again. I look back, completely wrong way to handle certain things, and there is always going to be the variables on how shit should have been handled, but the past is the past, shit's happened. There's only so much one can do about it now. And again, I understand there's going to be like those like types of people or types of energies that it's like, well, why don't we, you can always hold someone accountable for like later on in life and this and that, and like get the legal system and shit like this. I'm sitting here like, okay. I hear you. But I personally can't be fuck getting the legal shit involved, all right? And then there's that argument where it's like, oh, but then this person will do that again and this person, and it's like your responsibility and your accountability to do. Okay. I hear it. But it's my life. I'm allowed to do what I want with it. That's just as simple as that. It's a lot more of a complicated situation, and it always will be. And one day, maybe. But again, 4 years old. 4 years old with someone who's 7 years older than me, which means that it's technically not even an adult yet, so technically it's still 2 children. Anyway, these are my thought processes that come with this sort of shit. I had mentioned this, what was happening, to my mum's friend, who also was technically our babysitter from my mum's perspective, because it was her friend. Anyway, I mentioned it. I said it to this person. And they gave me the idea where it's like, well, have you said no? Like, have you said you don't want to do that anymore? Have you just told my older half brother no? And I was like, oh my fucking God. Why? First of all, if you're 4 to 7, you're not really thinking about the, permissions and morals of the way that the existence works. I don't know. Maybe some people were. Maybe correctly parented kids were. I don't fucking know. Anyway, I missed that lesson. So anyway, it dawned on me. I had the first epiphany I think I could ever comprehend at that age. And I went, fuck, I'd never tried that before. Let's give that a go. And thankfully, I said no the next time the opportunity arose. And it never happened again. Which is crazy. It's fucking insane to me. okay? If I just fucking said no way earlier, then maybe it would have been chilling. Anyway, again, I won't beat myself up about things that I didn't know what to do at the time, alright? This is, again, we're talking about a 4 to 7 year old. What the fuck, bro? You guys were counting, like, I don't know, My Little Ponies and Barbie dolls, and I was doing the same with a bit of side action. I shouldn't say it like that. Anyway. So, that was the first core trauma. Now, the irony about having sexual assault as your first core trauma, at least at that age, is that the ripple effect that happens. Now, there were so many more times that I experienced sexual trauma and abuse in so many different lights and so many different ways. But for the sake of this just being episode 1, we're at like 40 minutes now. So, I'll try and wrap it up. That is where I would say a fair key amount of my issues come from, for the obvious reasons. And through the next couple weeks, or next episodes, I should say, because honestly, I would want to just get this fucking shit out. Over the next couple episodes, I guess we'll go into... I don't know if we'll continue to go into the timeline. I'll probably go into the timeline. Again, we're only up to, 7? We're up to 7 years old now. And that's just a little bit of the iceberg, right? And I don't mean to try and put it out to be like a, haha, it's just this, blah, blah. I'm just expressing who I am and who I am now and where I've come from, so you guys can get a better understanding on why I wanted to do this, why I wanted to start this, where I come from as a person, why I may say or be the type of person that I am. And yeah, I have worked through a lot of shame. I've worked through a lot of guilt. I've worked through a lot of trying to understand and grow as a human being. Sometimes I forget how much I have grown until I look back on it. So I want to thank you for coming on this journey of me discovering who I have been and who I want to become and who I am presently right now. Depending on how consistent this journey stays, it's going to be an interesting journey. But yeah, it's very funny, and it's not funny, obviously, but to me it's funny. And I've said this like 4 times now, but it's interesting. And I had a thought halfway through this, was maybe the reason I have stayed so curious as a human being is because it's completely that was the core of my trauma. My curiosity was manipulated and taken advantage of, and yet I've never lost it, which you can find inspiring if you want. But yeah, it's kind of cool. I haven't thought about that. Neurological pathway reconnected, or a new connection. My brain just got wrinklier. It just means that the more wrinkly your brain, technically, apparently, like the more neurological pathways you have, or some shit. You can debunk that if you want. Fact check me. I don't give a fuck. But yeah, it's interesting. I'm really, really glad that my curiosity never left me. And it's funny because my curiosity, if you want to talk about curiosity getting you in trouble, I think I would know best. But again, yeah. So, yeah. That's as far as I think I'm going to go in this episode. And I'll probably continue to film and just upload a shit ton so people can keep listening to my rambles. But then, where's the consistency, babes? Motivate. How do I wrap this up to make it a little bit more uplifting? Though that has happened to me, and though the story of, or the story of who I am is unraveling. Anyone who knows me can gladly be like, holy shit, what the fuck? I've never would have thought she had been through this. Or maybe I did know that she'd gone through this and she doesn't look like someone who's been through this, or she doesn't come across as someone who has had this happen, or blah blah blah. Or if you knew me when I was fucking younger, it probably makes a lot of fucking sense now why I was so weird in primary school, because I wasn't really weird. I was experiencing adult things at a child age, right? I was experiencing complex moral, ethical fucking debates and experiences as a child. And this is where a lot of my teen years, or a lot of my young adult years, or a lot of now is a lot more childlike, because I am going back in time and taking back my childhood that I never got to experience, which has been really fun, by the way. Okay, being this age and doing the things that you wanted to do as a kid is great. It's great because, one, I'm 18, or not 18, but I'm over 18, which means that I have I'm the sole responsible. I am the parent of this person. And it's interesting, like, going through life and re-parenting your inner child is wild. It's crazy. I really recommend it. It is a really fun activity. Don't get me wrong. At first, the idea made me want to vomit. But we grow, we change, and we don't allow fucked up shit to... No. I don't know. I can't say we don't allow fucked up shit to define us, because I am, to a certain degree, defined by that fucked up shit. Like, if it wasn't for that fucked up shit, I wouldn't be here and I wouldn't be where I am today. But also, you have to give credit to yourself, because if it wasn't for the way that you handled your fucked up shit, then you also wouldn't be here, or you wouldn't be the person that you are. So it's like, as much as I'm like, cheers, don't get me wrong, I'm definitely not fucking thanking anybody for it, because that shit was fucked up, and I'd probably be, who knows where I would be. There's no question. There's no point questioning where I would or wouldn't be because of it. But I am where I am now because of whatever happened to me, and because of the beautiful people that I met along the way. I do think that, as much as I've done a lot of the work myself, there is a certain due diligence. Is that the right fucking word? Oh, I have to give to the people in my life who have supported me along the way, and friends who have come and gone, friends who have now turned into enemies. I say enemies just because in their perspective they probably don't like me, but I couldn't give a shit. And though I probably should give a shit, because I was probably a shit cunt and it gave them the reason to not like me anymore, I still appreciate your existence, because through those lessons, and through those actions, and through those times, I have progressed as a human being. And it's really funny, because they're like, you know, people that are like, oh, my haters are the ones that, like, keep me floating, or some fucking random shit. I would say that, like, no thanks. Like, I just want to give thanks to everyone who has come across and experienced who I am as a person throughout the years, because you've all done miraculously on how to handle me, and you've all been extremely patient. And even when you haven't been, you've been creative, or you've been curious, or you've given me a perspective on life that has helped me shape me as who I am today. So I really appreciate yous. And to the people that I will meet in the future, I appreciate yous. I appreciate pretty much fucking everything. And I think one of the biggest things to take away from this is, though fucked up shit happens. Because fucked up shit happens, alright? I know a fair amount of people who, again, problems are problems, right? There's no scale of how large or big a problem is. It just depends on how it affects the person. But on a realistic note as well, because I think as much as we can say that and appreciate that, we can also appreciate the fact that there are some people who have been through way more fucked up shit, or equal parts fucked up shit. And you do what you do with the cards you dealt. You can sit and be sad about it, and I definitely have. I've sat and I have been sad, and it's good. But you don't want to do it for that long. You don't want to do it for the point where it completely takes up your whole life. Because shit, man. The only reason that I've had the ability to push through my traumas and to get through, I guess, majority of the shit that I've been through is because I've got the mindset of, like, there's more to life than just pain and suffering. There's more to life that I want to do, that I want to experience. And this is where I'm a half glass full type gal, because there's just more to fucking life, man. I don't know how else to explain it. As simple as it gets. Like, cool. Like, I'm not gonna let that shit keep me fucking down. Like, sure, don't get me wrong, the guilt and the shame that it feels, or like the depression or the anxiety or the PTSD or whatever the fuck you want to call it, the repercussions of other people's actions on you and the repercussions of people sharing their loneliness and pain in destructive behavior is fucked up. It's totally fucked up. But it's life. Like, this is where boundaries come in place. Like, you can protect yourself as much as you want, but life happens. And unfortunately, in unfortunate circumstances, it happens. But it's up to you to determine what you do with it, and it's up to you to determine how it affects you. And it's ironic because I'm saying this, and there are definite times where I am a pity party. I am an absolute pity party. But you know what? Have a pity party. If it makes you feel better, have one. But then don't stay in it all the time. Do something different. Change it up. Live life. Be whoever the fuck you want to be. You do you, boo-boo. You do you. And this is where, I guess, in the later episodes, or the later like sessions, or whatever the fuck you want to call this, is that you'll see that, I guess, the underlying current that comes out most of the time is just like, be whoever, like, no matter whatever I say, no matter however you want to take whatever I say, if you disagree with it or you agree with it, just be whoever the fuck you want to be. Live whoever the fuck you want to live. Like, if you want to be different types of people, different days of the week, do it. Who the fuck gives a shit? Obviously, there's like that basic foundation of like, I hope you are not being a cunt to anyone, and I hope you are being, you know, polite or nice or kind, or, you know, not harming anyone. But also, who am I to fucking tell you how to live? I'm not here to tell you how to live. You can live however the fuck you want to live. Don't get me wrong. Again, I prefer to be associated with like-minded people, but there's 7 billion people on the planet, cunt. 7 billion. Or fucking 8 at now. Do you have any idea how many people that is? How many individual souls? Think of you as a soul, right? And think about how big and how large and how intense your life is sometimes, and how many times people you know, and how many, and you multiplying your by the people that you know, and then think about it on a 7 billion, 8 billion scale. That's fucking large. That is massive. That is insane. Anyway, so, but that's nature. That's the world. That's the society we live in. That's what life is. Chaotically beautiful. That was me trying to wrap it up into a motivational sense, but you get my picture. Yeah. That was the first one. That was the first session, first episode, possibly the first episode. The first episode was a bit of a ramble disclaimer, but this, depending if I post that one, then this one will be the first one. And I think I did way better on this one, so maybe I'll post this one as the first episode. No, maybe I'll just post both of them. I don't know. You know, we put on different accents because, you know, fuck it, why not? We can go into the psychological depths of that if we wanted to, but Anyway, the sunlight is dimming, and I prefer using sunlight as a lighting source because she's a goddess, okay? Amazing queen, love her. But yeah, that's a little taste. Yeah, we'll get into it later on more. But yeah, welcome. It's also funny because right now I'm filming this, right? And I don't know how long it's going to take me to upload. I've never, tell me you're going back to childhood things, because when I was 12 or some shit, I posted videos on YouTube about me trying to do my makeup and like dumb shit. So I'm about to go revisit that world and see how well I have the ability to do this. Anyway. Welcome. I don't know how I'm going to turn this into an audio, but anyway. Welcome. Love yous. Leave yous. Catch you on the flip. Whatever flip that may be. And yeah, I appreciate yous, and you should appreciate yourselves. And you know what? Go tell people that you love them. Or go tell yourself that you love yourself. Because you should. You're probably really dope. And honestly, a lot of the issues in the world is to do with personal shame and guilt. And we can go into shame and guilt at some point, but yeah. Love is the way, bro. What is it? The Mandalorian? It is the way. I watched patchworks of Mandalorian. Star Wars. I'm more of a Lord of the Rings type gal. But anyway, yeah. Peace, love, tranquility. Namaste, Shanti. Yeah. Yeah, I'll see you next time.